What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Running Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts Matt Llewellyn and Mike Andrews. It's been a minute, guys. We needed some time to heal mentally, emotionally, physically. But we're back, and we're excited to bring this show to you. Before I toss over to my co-host for tuning in on X, make sure you like and repost the stream. Head over to YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, drop your comments there. We want to see what you guys think about everything that's going on 49ers related. Now that I got that out of the way, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Whew, Zach, it's been a while, man. Like you said, we needed to heal from some trauma from the Super Bowl, that whole hangover. New background, bought a house, moved in there. So that's been taking up a lot of my time too. That's been, crazy. What they don't tell you about all this extra cost, right? Like blinds, $5,000-$6,000. You got to landscape a backyard, and this is like new construction, by the way. If you buy a house that has all that stuff, you're good. But I talked to my wife. I'm like, dang, I feel like I've been like putting stuff together and hanging stuff. There's still boxes around. Like, how long does it take? She's a real estate agent, so she's like, yeah, a lot of people don't even fully feel like they're moved in until like a year. And I'm like, oh God. So it's been busy, but I'm so happy to be back and talking football. And it's one of my favorite times of the year. We're coming up on free agency and the draft, so let's get to it.
Yeah, man. Congratulations on the house. Mike, how you doing?
All is well over here, man. Matt talking about home renovations. I was just saying I got my furnace checked out today because we were having some issues with it, and I'm currently getting estimates for new siding, windows, and roofs on 2 different buildings because I have the garage that's not attached. And man, oh man, it costs a lot more than what I thought it was going to cost. So it's always fun. The joys of home ownership. So congrats to you, Matt. And let's get through the pain today, guys. Let's rock out.
Let's do it, man. So as you guys know, this is our first show since the Super Bowl. We're not going to get into the Super Bowl, how that ended, how it is what it is. We're in mid to late March now. So we're just going to move on and let's start fresh with the 2024 free agency period for the 49ers. They did have a kind of a laundry list of free agents, but let's be honest, none of them were really key pieces going down that list. But the biggest signing, let's start with acquisitions, and then we'll go out to departures. But the biggest signing, in my opinion, has to be Leonard Floyd. And it was, I think, the second day of free agency this kind of came out. I know Mike Silver was saying the Niners are about to make it a splash signing any minute. Well, it didn't really come to fruition. Maybe they were trying. Maybe things are going on behind the scenes that didn't really happen. But this is what did happen. So they got Leonard Floyd. They did sign, is it Eric Kendricks? I always get them confused. Eric Kendricks, and then he backed out at the last second. Some say because he remembered the 49ers hired Brandon Staley. Let's be honest, he probably just remembered Mike Zimmer's in Dallas. He's got familiarity with him. Eric Kendricks backed out, ended up going to Dallas. So that forced the 49ers to sign Devondre Campbell. Before I get ahead of myself, what do you guys think of the Leonard Floyd addition? Matt, Mike, whoever wants to go first. Is he past his sell-by date? Mike, what do you think?
No, so when the move first happened, sorry about all the smoke in front of me. When the move first happened, I was like, oh, another old guy coming in here. Like, this is, death by 1,000 cuts type of thing. This seems to be the 49ers like MO on the defensive line. But then I went and looked at his numbers, and he's still producing at a relatively good clip, and he had significantly less snaps last year than he did before. So I say, hey, if that's going to be a rotational guy or something like that, let him learn from Drake, let Drake Jackson learn from him. Hopefully the Niners can get something out of that, out of that pick from 2 years ago. I think it's a good signing. Like you said, it's probably the best signing, the best free agent signing so far.
Yeah, I'm hyped on this acquisition. I think I just had it up here, but I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a career high in sacks last year. Is that correct? He just set his career high being in the league X amount of years, right? Yeah.
I think he tied it. I'll pull up the stats, but I'm pretty sure he tied it.
10 and a half, right? Yeah. And I also read he was with Brandon Staley not only in LA, but also in Chicago. So there's familiarity there. I'm excited for this signing. Matt, how do you feel about the acquisition of Leonard Floyd?
Yeah, I mean, it is, death by a thousand cuts. And when we come off of what we thought we were getting out of Chase Young, they clearly needed to turn the page. And now it's come out Chase Young is going to have neck surgery. He had a whole list of issues before he was even traded. That's why Chicago backed out of that trade. The 49ers felt good about the medicals that they saw, even though, he didn't, end up staying here. They took a chance on him. It kind of worked out. I don't know, man. I think that this is a good deal. And where they went in free agency actually does give me hope, because one of the first signings that I saw the 49ers do was Colt McKivitz. And that really, I was just like, come on, man. If they keep Colt McKivitz in that swing tackle backup role, I'm okay with that. But they went heavy on the defensive line, not just with Leonard Floyd, who I think is a good signing. And like Mike said, even as he ages, he's still producing. You get Llewellyn Gross Matos. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name there, brother, but you get him. You get the defensive tackle. I'm spacing on the name right now.
Collins.
Malik Collins.
Right. Great signing as well, given that, the elephant in the room that I'm sure we're going to talk about, the departure of Eric Armstead, long tenured 49er. So overall, I'm very happy. It's a low, $10 million a year for 2 years. It's not breaking the bank, considering that Chase Young with a neck injury got a $13 million deal from the Saints. I can't be mad about it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is, in my opinion, is the best bookend pass rusher that Bose has had to complement him since D Ford's stint before his body basically fell apart. His neck, his back, whatever it was. I think Leonard Floyd has the ability to be that level of pass rusher opposite of Nick Bosa. And I saw here per ESPN, he had just scroll down a little too far, but he played 54% of the snaps for the Bills last year, and 2-year deal up to $24 million. That's a hell of a value signing, in my opinion. And if we remember where the 49ers sit franchise cap or salary cap wise, they were never going to be able to go out there and sign a player to an $80 million, like they did last year, which kind of shocked everybody when they went and signed Javon Hargrave. They were never going to be able to do that again this year, especially with Brandon Aiyuk's extension looming large. So these value signings are where they needed to really hit home on, and then hope that their draft picks also hit. We talked about Leonard Floyd. Matt, you brought up Gross Matos. They also signed Devondre Campbell. And then
I like what Collie says right here, by the way. Just do what I do. Just call him YGM. I'm okay with that.
Smart. And then, they acquired Malik Collins from Houston. It did sound like they were trying to work out possibly a trade, Eric Armstead for Collins, maybe some picks involved. And then it kind of fell apart, and the 49ers were just like, okay, well, we'll still take Collins. Like, we still really like this guy. He played really well last year. He was 12th in pass rush win rate. Wow, that's hard to say. Amongst interior pass rushers at 13.9%, and third in that category at 17.4% in 2022. I saw that he ranked just as good as Eric Armstead with roughly the same number of snaps, and his contract is nowhere near what Eric Armstead would have cost them, And all they had to give up was a 7th round pick. But let's be honest, this is the elephant in the room, like Matt addressed. Eric Armstead is now gone. Mike, I'm going to throw it back to you. What does that mean? I honestly thought Armstead, Kittle, these were guys that were going to be Niners for life, and to see them just a year later after kicking the can down the road on his contract, he's gone. They went to him with maybe a restructure. He didn't want to do it. And then he signed him, or he got traded to, I should say, for very similar money to Jacksonville. How do you feel about this? Or he got released. I'm sorry. He did get released, then he went and signed.
Yeah. I too thought he was going to be a Niner for life. Every time they went to him for restructure, he always did it. But I think that when the risk with the restructure is that most of the guaranteed is sort of the back end of it, and he just had a kid. I think he wanted some guarantees. He's getting up there in age. He was the longest tenured Niner after the departure of Jimmy Ward last year, so he became the longest tenured guy, and they're moving on. They I think the Niners did the right thing, especially when you look at Malik Collins, his age, and the impact that he has down in and down out, and where he's coming from also, right? D'Amico Ryans had his hands on him. I'm sure that they spoke to D'Amico at length about if they thought he could produce similarly to what Armstead was doing. Plus, Armstead had these nagging injuries. You're getting a healthy player in here that you don't have to worry about missing significant plays for you. So that's the one thing I did like about a lot of these acquisitions, whether it be signings or trades. Most of these guys were healthy for all of the season, maybe missed a game or two, but nothing like what we saw with Eric Armstead. So I also like that as well. Let's go out there and get the talent that matches and make sure that these guys have been healthy lately. And so I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's a great point. The availability has been a huge factor because previously maybe we see the 49ers find these value picks, but the reason they were a value is because they had been hurt. They're coming off said injury or X injury, and maybe they feel they could have a reclamation project of sorts. That's not the case this year. A lot of the players they signed did play a very good amount of snaps within the past couple of years, and they almost never have missed games due to injury, Leonard Floyd included. We brought up Gross Matos. They signed him to a 2-year deal, up to $18 million, which is a little interesting. But I think this is a very good signing, kind of a high motor player. He had 13 sacks in 4 seasons in Carolina, but let's be honest, almost nobody's going to thrive in Carolina. So I think this is a situation he could step into and be a solid situational pass rusher. If there's anything you guys want to add to this, if not, I'll move on. Matt, Mike.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that getting out of Carolina is going to do him a lot of good, and playing alongside actual Pro Bowl level talent and getting with Coach Kasirik, I think it's going to do him wonders, and getting into just a different environment. Sometimes you need that step up to grow.
Mike?
Four of the 49ers, 9 acquisitions this season have come on the defensive line. They are again giving Kosirik any and everything. Every single year, it seems like the biggest free agent signing comes to the defensive line, and Kosirik still isn't producing. I think, and I don't know if you guys know this, he's the highest paid at his position in the entire league. I think we got to start asking, is he overrated? I know that you guys don't want to do that now. That's not what the show is about. But, I mean, if they invested half of what they did into the offensive line as to what they do with the defensive line, it would be a completely different story here. I just am getting a little tired of the, Kosirik's a genie.
I don't know. I would say that a lot. This last season was a lot more Wilkes than it was Kosirik. Because in 2022, 2021, they're up near the top in sacks and pressures and things like that. So it's, when Bosa, I know the holdout or whatever, goes from 18.5 sacks to 10.5, and it's the same defensive line coach, but the defensive coordinator's a little different, and you're asking them to do a little bit different things. I don't know. This will be the year. I would say that this is definitely a year where we need to judge Coach K on that defensive line. And if we see that, again, that downtrend, right? But just a couple of years ago, he turned Kerry Hyder into an 8.5 sack guy and got him paid. So I would reserve judgment and just kind of it was still him. So if you're going to tear him down for when it's not producing, then you got to give him the flowers when he does.
But they haven't produced though. And that's kind of my point, right? So we get a double-digit guy and a guy that teeters right on the line, and then no one else does anything more than 2 or 3. And it was the same exact thing last year. And at what point do we say, like, I know it's not the Eagles, right? But the Eagles had 4 guys with double-digit sacks last year, right? That's why we said, let's get Hargrave over here. And I'm like, guys, Hargrave is not bringing that double-digit sack stuff here. Look at his record. Look at what he's done. Look at who he is. That's not who he is. That's not who he's going to be over here. And so we've never had that. We've never had a complete defensive line that gets after the quarterback consistently. It's one guy, and we try to find a complement for him on the other side.
Hey, Mike, what if I were to tell you that the 49ers had more sacks in 2023 than the Philadelphia Eagles and were actually 7th in the league in sacks?
Yeah, last year. Yeah. The past, but I was talking about the year before when Hargrave was in Philly. I was talking about that year. Like, it's not even close. We don't get close to that kind of production on the defense.
Sure, but okay, but you're talking about guys that, like, who's really the sack guy? You had rookie Drake Jackson that year who wasn't really going to produce. You have all these reclamation projects, right? You have the Samson Ebukam and those guys. Like, if you don't have the elite talent, you can't expect elite production all the time. I think that's just, pretty unreasonable to expect. But then you get, Nick Bosa won Defensive Player of the Year, the year before last. So it's push and pull. I think it's a lot of different factors. And I think that the back end, kind of goes with the front end as well. So teams were attacking the 49ers out in space near the line of scrimmage a lot last year. That's going to take away some of that pressure against the line of scrimmage. And that's kind of been the book on them for a couple seasons, right? Because you don't want Nick Bosa absolutely wrecking your game. And he's going to do that if you try to do a traditional dropback offense against the Niners.
Let me play devil's advocate real quick. Because I think I could see what Mike is saying, and I can also see what Matt's saying, but it's almost like you only have like $30 for dinner every night, and you have, I don't know, if you have two roommates, and one of your roommates is like, I can cook dinner, but I need a filet mignon every night. And then your other friends is like, well, I could cook dinner too, but I could make it with a little less. And it's like, well, he needs the filet mignon. So you're spending the $30 on one steak, but your other friend, which in this case would be Chris Forrester, the offensive line, is like, if I could just get anything more than like a loaf of bread and some American cheese, like I could probably do a little better here. Like I would hope the defensive line is the bread and butter, because that's where most of the 49ers resources have been poured into in the draft, kind of in free agency. I mean, you did get, Hargrave last season, but for some reason, the 49ers just don't feel the need to invest even a somewhat equivalent amount into the offensive line as they do in the defensive line. Their winning formula does not include high value picks or acquisitions via free agency on offense, on the offensive line. It just doesn't account for it. So Kyle must feel that he could either beat not having elite talent up front with quick passes, or an elite running game, or a great screen game, whatever the case may be. So therefore he feels okay not investing in blue chip players up front.
Bet you that changes this year.
And that's what I'm hoping is the case. Marcus never
49ers. I would be shocked if the 49ers did not take an offensive tackle with their first pick.
Me too.
Someone like a Tyler Guyton or an Amarius Mims, I would be shocked. They're definitely not going defensive line. I've already said, I said it in the chat. I'll say it here, bro. I will turn in my fandom. I will turn into a Skip Bayless level hater if the 49ers draft defensive line round one.
They're going to get Chop Robinson or whatever that dude's name is. Watch. I could already see it.
Did you hear the story behind that? Why they call him Chop?
I did not. What is it?
He was nicknamed Pork Chop when he was a baby because he was like 14 pounds, 2 ounces or something like that when he was born.
Damn.
And he had no neck. Like he says this himself. So, yeah. Anyway.
Damn. Yeah, hopefully this is the year. And we said it, I think we've been saying it for, at the very least, the last 2 to 3 years. We said it when the Niners season ended in LA in that championship game, when Aaron Donald was just wrecking shop on the 49ers offensive line. We said it last year when Purdy gets hurt in Philly. I know that didn't really have as much to do with the defensive line, but all year had still been a problem. And then we said it this year because they were like, hey, you didn't spend a single pick on the offensive line. Like, that's kind of weird. Okay. Sure. And sure enough, it was a consistent problem. And in the Super Bowl, we all know if Purdy had an extra half second to a second, the 49ers are likely Super Bowl winners this year, because Brandon Aiyuk's wide open in the back of the end zone. That's in the fourth quarter. Also in overtime, twice the 49ers would have been able to get a touchdown instead of where they got a field goal if Purdy just had an extra second at most. So I really do think what Matt said is correct. They have to address the position this year. There's no more excuses. Every other position has been addressed with premium talent. If you haven't hit on them, that's not your offensive line's fault. It's not the offensive line. It's not Chris Forster's fault that Javon Kinlaw didn't really turn out to anything and then went and signed elsewhere. It's not his fault that Eric Armstead wouldn't take a pay cut. So now that's not his fault. You need to protect. If you really do think Purdy is your franchise quarterback, you got to protect him. You just have to protect him. Simple as that.
Well, and I think the issue is that Kyle thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, right? And so, not an issue. Let me rephrase what I'm saying, because I don't want this to sound like Kyle hate. But if you look at the free agent signings and the first pick in the draft, it's consistently been defensive line and defensive line. If you look at the re-signing and the extensions, they brought back the entire offensive line.
Yep.
So Kyle's like, well, if this is worst case scenario, I'll make do with what I got. You guys go out there and get what you think we need to go out there and win. I wouldn't be so sure it's not a defensive pick with the 31 overall. I wouldn't be so sure.
Defensive line, particularly, is what I'm saying. If they decide to go like corner or safety or something like that, but there's no, with what they spent on the defensive line, I mean, you're looking at what they have depth chart wise, they don't really have room. You're talking it's too many guys for how many people are going to play. You have Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave who are going to, take time at the defensive tackle slot. You have Drake Jackson year 3. Like, what are you going to do with him? Right. You have Nick Bosa. You have YGM. You have Leonard Floyd. And they brought back Kevin Givens. So that they have enough. They have enough. And you can't tell me that they're looking at it with Colt McKivitz re-signing for 1 year, $7 million after he was an absolute turnstile last year. And people will say, he was about Mike McGlinchey level. Yeah, but Mike McGlinchey's not good. That's a low bar to clear. You can't tell me that he's looking at that. And he needs somebody in that front office. Adam Peters is gone. It's all falling on John Lynch now, right? Somebody's got to look at him and go, Kyle, no. We're drafting an offensive lineman. And this is one of the deepest tackle classes in the league in a long time. And I mean that from whether you're at the beginning taking somebody like a Joe Alt, or you're at the back end of the first round taking one of the other guys that I mentioned, an Amarius Mims, Guyton, Fuaga, all those guys. There's something there for everybody. And you've seen signings around the league where it's playing that the 49ers can get a really good player at the end of round 1. All they have to do is not screw it up. And you're talking about, you can get somebody out there as a right tackle who can eventually, if you see potential to move left when, Trent Williams retires, great. If you don't, then at least you've kicked the can down the road and you don't have to rely on Colt McKivitz to protect the quarterback. And right tackles and left tackles in today's NFL have become very interchangeable in terms of their value because of the way that teams move around their best pass rushers. It matters. So I think that it has to be something where the 49ers have to go with their first pick, getting an offensive tackle, unless we fall into those crazy Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors.
Yep. We got a super chat from Niner Vega. Says, if an offensive lineman that's supposed to be a third rounder is all that's left, you pick best player available, no matter position.
Yeah, but this tackle draft is so deep. You're not at 31. You're going to have a first-round talent at tackle left. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of really good tackles this year. Normally, I'd agree with that, right? You're looking at, we're sitting in the 4th round. There was a guy that's kind of projected like borderline first-rounder, but for whatever reason he felt that, yeah, of course, you take a chance on that guy. But in the first round, you better hit, and they don't have the greatest track record of hitting with their first-round picks, by the way.
Not only that, but with the trades we've seen, I mean, these teams trading up to draft a quarterback are pushing talent further down the board. So it's almost more and more likely that a starting caliber tackle or guard will fall to the end of the first round than a month ago because of these trades that are bound to happen. It's rumored that Minnesota will almost definitely trade into the top 10, top 5 if possible to get a quarterback. So
I've heard that they want JJ McCarthy really bad.
Crazy.
I think six quarterbacks are going in the first round.
Ooh. Damn.
It's going to be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. It's going to be JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, and then there's one more that I'm forgetting. The kid that got hurt like early in the year.
Sure.
I'll look it up. I can't. It's escaping me off the top of my head right now. I'll look it up real quick.
I'm thinking of the Florida State kid, but I don't think he's in this draft, is he? He is? Travis Jordan, whatever. Golden Dragon says to get a plug and play tackle, it has to be handled by the quote collective bargaining agreement by trading Brandon Aiyuk. Bo Nix.
Yeah, it's either going to be like Bo Nix or Jordan Travis is in this draft. And then you have somebody like on the outside who make a late push for early like day 2. It's going to be somebody like a Spencer Rattler who made like a good impression at the Senior Bowl. People like that. So But I think there's a real 5 for sure, but I think there's a real shot at 6 going.
There's a free agent the 49ers signed that I'm really excited to talk about. And we didn't talk about Jordan Elliott. He's a defensive tackle the 49ers signed. That's also a good run stuffer. The 49ers have this track record of signing players that played really well against them. And Jordan Elliott is one of these players. He's from Cleveland. He was just dominating the run game when the 49ers played there in week 6 of this year, this past season. But Isaac Yiadom. I loved this kid coming out of college. I was really high on him. I remember talking. This was back when Croc was with nothing but Niners, and we were talking to Croc, and he was like one of his higher ranked corners coming out of college. He was with the Saints. He got drafted by Denver, I believe. But he's only 28. He's coming off of his best season. He's got a handful of picks. Last year he only had 1, but he had 14 pass breakups. I'm really excited for this kid. He's a much better corner than, the guy they signed last year. It's already gone from Atlanta. Forgetting his name, but the guy that Wilkes brought with him that got benched. Oliver. Thank you. Then Oliver. What do you guys think of him? Because I'm really excited about him. Mike, what do you think?
I think that he is this year's version of Javarius Ward. I think that he's a feisty guy. I think that he's going to come in. I think he's going to fight for a starting role here. I really, really do. And the Niners are going to have to see if they can get what's best out of him. You know what I mean? And with Wilkes not being here, I'll be honest with you. If I would feel better about him if Wilkes was here. I know that sounds crazy, right? But the secondary to me wasn't the biggest issue this year. It was the front 7 guys that I was more concerned with. I thought Wilkes and that defense did a pretty good job, especially with what's going on and all the injuries in secondary and the safeties and all that, and how they had to rotate those guys. I thought they played a little more consistent despite who was in there. And so I think Yiadom, whatever you guys call him, I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologize. I think he's going to come in and fill in really nicely here. We just got to hope that we don't get a lot of bad calls because he's more of an aggressive guy. He'll run and not turn his head around, but he plays the eyes and the shoulder pads of the wide receiver. So when he sees the guy doing this, he's quick to throw a hand up. And if the guy, he can be baited into flags if they do it early. So I just hope that we don't get a lot of penalties on him.
Yeah. I have this little bit here from Eric Branch's article on him, and he says, quote, "The 49ers view Yiadom as a significant addition. He's a leading candidate to start opposite all-pro corner Travarius Ward, an arrangement which would move Diamador Lenore into the slot in 2024. So it would certainly give the 49ers a really good trio of starting corners with Yiadom, Ward, and Lenore. I'm excited for this. Matt, I don't know if you had any thoughts on this acquisition, but I'm hyped.
No, I think it's a guy that fits the culture that the 49ers try to build with their guys. And like you said, he did have a career year last year. I believe it was in Indianapolis. And yeah, it's exciting to get. This is what people who want to be around the Super Bowl or fancy themselves as Super Bowl contenders do. They go out and get these diamonds in the rough. They go out and get these veterans that can, help the team out. And I think the 49ers have approached free agency in a very smart way, much smarter than last year. For as much as like we all ranted and raved about the Javon Hargrave signing, at the end of the day, did you need to put that much resources into one guy? I know that, he, again, a little bit hurt, but he still, when he was on the field, he produced a little bit. I think that the 49ers in what they're doing, being up against the cap, I think it's forced them to really look at it. And by the way, this is in a post Adam Peters kind of thing. So if we're looking at it from that angle, I think that John Lynch has done a very good job of working with what he has and bringing in talent that's going to lessen the blow of what the 49ers have lost. I think they've done a very good job, and I'm happy with the signings that they've made. Even if they're not super splash guys, I think they're all pretty solid signings.
Yeah. We got a super chat here from our guy Sean. He said, "Who are we kidding? We will blow the picks in the first 4 rounds, like another Drake Jackson first, then a Pro Bowl place kicker. We won't address the need until the 5th round up, then budget low-level linemen that are projects." That is a spurned man right there.
I mean, we're scarred. Let's be honest. We're scarred. Wayne and I just went over the 2022 draft class, and we're not, other than Brock Purdy, we're not seeing much benefit of that entire draft class. And it's been riddled with injuries, guys in and out of the lineup. And we did a count. I think there were 3 players from that whole draft class that have a total of more than 300 snaps. That's not good. That's not good going into their 3rd year here. And it's because the Niners go out and get so many of these veteran pieces, that, oh, well, we're going to put the veterans in instead of the rookies. How are you supposed to ever evaluate these guys on the field if you don't put them on the field and you keep trusting the outside people? Like, what's the point of having these guys in your system for multiple seasons if you're never going to put them in and just trust a veteran that you just picked up off the streets? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Look what they did this past season. Ji'Ayir Brown's going in there. He had a couple shaky tackles, and they're like, we're going to sign Logan Ryan, and he's starting next week. And everyone's like, oh, I thought Brown was playing pretty well. Sure, he made a couple of rookie mistakes, but he's a rookie. Like, it's kind of to be expected, don't you think? Don't you let him grow through those? I don't know, man. They have this weird thing that almost like, we're so good, we can't even afford you the opportunity to grow in real time, which, to be honest with you, that's kind of Trey Lance's entire story here, but it's still affecting other positions of the team that aren't as pivotal as quarterback. But it is.
And another
real quick, I want to correct myself. Isaac Yadam coming from the Saints. I had Justin Blackman on my mind, who the 49ers were tied to today, who was with the Colts. So pardon me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, it's a good call. And I do hope that they managed to bring him in, by the way. I really hope they can bring him in here. But I was just going to say, we saw them do the same thing with Womack, right? We saw Womack for 2 games. We're like, yo, this guy's playing pretty good. Like, again, like Zach said, make a couple of rookie mistakes, but then it's like you never see him again. He gets buried on the depth chart, and it's like, is he even still a part of the 49ers roster? Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this to this kid? Like, how else is he supposed to learn to play without playing? Practice is practice, and it's all predetermined. Like, put this kid in real life game situations and let him learn from his mistakes. But it is what it is.
Is that a 49ers thing or is that the NFL thing? It's really interesting to see that after the Justin Fields trade, that only Trevor Lawrence is still with his team out of those first-round quarterbacks. There were 5 of those quarterbacks taken within the first 15 picks, and only Trevor Lawrence is with his team. And a lot of people, including myself, would be like, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be this generational talent. And he's like, all right, but he's like not this transcendent talent. You know what I mean? So like everybody else is like, I think it's just the nature of the NFL. If you don't come in and show immediately that you have it on the field, and they don't have time to let you grow, not with the salary cap, not with the churn, particularly with the 49ers, right? Like, I know it's hard to think about, but they're on the clock already with Brock Purdy. They only have him for 2 seasons, right? After this season, they got to talk extension with him. So they don't have time to let, oh, yeah, you're making rookie mistakes. I mean, that's cool. But when you have Super Bowl aspirations, go make your rookie mistakes in Carolina, where that team's just going to fucking suck, right? Like, honestly, if the 49ers is like step up or step aside, that's just plain and simple how it's going to be. And I think that's a big thing around the entire league. But the 2021 quarterback class all being, Zach Wilson gone, Mac Jones gone, Justin Fields gone, Trey Lance gone. It was an eye-opener for me where it's like, man, these guys really aren't messing around, and quarterbacks are becoming very disposable very quickly. It's kind of crazy to see.
Did you guys see the tweet that went out today comparing Daniel Jones to Trevor Lawrence?
It's like the same numbers.
It was almost identical. It was creepy how I'm gonna find.
Was it Daniel Jones or was it Mac Jones? I think it was Mac Jones.
I thought it was Daniel Jones because I was thinking the Giants. I thought they both made the playoffs once. That's even worse if it was Mac Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones or Mac Jones made the playoffs with the Patriots his rookie year.
Oh, maybe it was because I remember thinking
this one I see is Daniel.
Is it Dove?
Maybe.
The NFL and CBS.
Yes. This is the one that I saw today. Yeah, but look at how similar those numbers are. Other than the tie,
damn similar.
That is insane how similar those numbers are. And one guy is viewed as we got to move on, and the other guys looked at it as, well, there's still hope. But again, look at who they signed to be his backup this year, right? So the Jaguars aren't playing around either. They're going out there and saying maybe he's not it.
Damn. All right, we're talking about quarterbacks. Before we get into departures for the 49ers free agents, they did sign a quarterback, I believe just yesterday or 2 days ago. One pretty notable, Joshua Dobbs. Josh Dobbs, we'll get into departure soon, but they did re-sign Brandon Allen earlier in free agency, and then they they went out and signed Joshua Dobbs to I just had it up here, $2.25 million deal with another $750,000 in playing time possibilities. I just missed it. Regardless, what do you guys think of this contract, this signing, I should say, of Joshua Dobbs? The Pastronaut had his Jeremy Lin type run with Minnesota, was playing well with Arizona before that as well. What do you guys think? Mike, start with you. What do you think of Josh Dobbs as a backup?
I like it as a backup. I like it as a backup. I want to make sure I'm saying this so everyone is clear what I'm saying. A guy who wants to throw first and run last. He wants to live behind the line of scrimmage, but he does have a little bit of athleticism, and I think he would be a really good guy. Definitely more talented than Brandon Allen, what you're going to get from him. So hopefully he can go out there and win the backup competition.
I like it.
Signing, veteran guy. Yeah, I think it's a good signing. And it's not a guy that I think anyone. So when the 49ers went out and got Sam Darnold, we saw all the BS, right? For the entire time that preseason was there. We saw it from all the same old guys, all the same old 49ers check marks in the same old content creator circle. Sam Darnold's coming for Brock Purdy's job. Sam Darnold's coming for Brock Purdy's job. This signing allows you to have a veteran guy who actually has a similar skill set to Brock Purdy and is not a threat to take Brock Purdy's job, or not even going to, let me amend, is not going to be perceived as a threat to take Brock Purdy's job. And I think that that's a huge thing, so that we don't, this is the one off season that we really don't have to talk about the quarterback position, in that we're not looking to replace Brock Purdy. We're looking to protect him rather than try to replace him. And I'm actually excited to see how Brock Purdy grows with a healthy offseason in an NFL training room.
His first one as the starter. So,
by the way, shout outs to Brock Purdy. Congratulations on getting married. That's pretty awesome. So congratulations to you, sir.
Yep. Yeah. So the 49ers free agency. I know Mike Silver seems like every minute he's saying they're not done yet. But they're basically all but done. They did have, was it Julian Blackmon in, the Colts safety, in for a visit today, which is interesting because it makes you think, who would he replace? I don't think he'd be in
Hufanga
as a third. I think that's what
Hufanga's not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. Not off of an Achilles rupture. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? It's just, it's, even if he is ready to play, he's not going to be 100%. We've seen that time and time again. And having the assurance, which, by the way, they re-signed George Odom to a 2-year deal. It's healthy for the 49ers to have those backups. We saw Gibson come in and play a role. We saw Ji'Ayir Brown do more than what we expected. We talking about rookies making an impact. Brown did a lot of good. I mean, he had a couple of things that weren't great, but with Hufanga going down, the 2022 All-Pro, you ask a guy to step in, he did a really good job. I think that getting veteran presence can only help that locker room in terms of that position group.
Mike, do you have something to
add? No, I was going to say congratulations to Ji'Ayir Brown. Got the key to the city out here in Trenton. So it was a big deal for him. I was very happy to see that for him as well. And, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Blackmon comes in here and competes. I think he's better than Huff. I know that's like blasphemous because, he got an All-Pro?
Yep.
He got the All-Pro nod and all that stuff. And I am still baffled as to how he got that. Not saying that he's a done deal or he can't improve. Again, I can't say it one way and then take it back for another side. These guys have to play in order to get better. But these guys they need help with the safeties. Even if they're all healthy, they need help with the safety group, and we have to have some sort of contingency plan in case, like Matt said, the injury lingers, or, okay, I'm ready, I'm healthy, I'm cleared, but it's going to be a while before you trust it to run fully. And I didn't have as drastic of an injury as he had, and I was nervous walking, squatting. You just feel it after not using it for a certain amount of time. So I imagine full sprints and stuff like that. You're going to be a little bit hesitant, So and who knows? Maybe it'll help him. His injury is going to physically slow him down a little bit, which is going to make him rely on angles more. So he's going to have to get the mental part right, even more so now than he did before, where he was just going out there and relying on instincts. So I'm hoping that this actually helps him down the road. All right, you can't depend on the speed right now. You got to get better at the craft. You got to know the playbook a little bit more. So
well, and by the way, for Huff before the injury, it's not like he was a burner. It's not like he was this overly athletic guy. He was very opportunistic, and that led him to, Mike, what you talk about that I had criticisms of is that he gets caught peaking, and we talked about it in 2022, even during the All Pro season or whatever, because he had a lot of turnovers early. That particularly the Miami game, I remember where he bites on Jalen Waddle underneath and lets Tyreek Hill go right over the top of him. And it's like, man, like you have to have more awareness than that. There needs to be more than that. So I agree with you that the veteran in there as almost like another set of eyes, right? It's one thing, you can hear it from your coaches, you can hear it when you hear it from your peers, it can kind of take effect, and it allows him to take his time coming back where he doesn't have to feel like he rushes. And like you said, Mike, hopefully he can hone his craft a little bit and get out there and be a little bit better.
Yep. Also, Mike, I just want to say, you were saying you don't know how Hufanga got the All-Pro. My good friend, did you know he trained with Troy Polamalu? That's a little fun fact for you. I bet you didn't know that one, Mike. He's got similar hair. I bet you didn't know that.
That is crazy. Pert Plus is coming right now with a shampoo. It was a Pert Plus? Oh, no, Head and Shoulders. Sorry. Head and Shoulders. What is Pert Plus? Is Pert Plus a shampoo?
I've never heard that before.
Oh, that's the one he's going to get then. I think that was like a Walmart special a couple of years ago. I feel like Pert Plus was a shampoo. Now I got to look it up because I'm going to be stuck on what the hell is Pert Plus. So.
I just had to say that since everybody's always like, did you know he's trained with Troy Polamalu? Well, he's basically Troy Polamalu.
It is a shampoo. Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
All right.
By the way, I'd like to see, no shade to Sean Gibson, but also shade to Sean Gibson. I'd also like to see a safety that won't completely lose the ball when Patrick Mahomes throws up a perfectly interceptable pass in the Super Bowl. Dude, the amount of people, and I know I was going to bring it up, but I have to, just this one thing. The amount of Chiefs fans that were like, what a beautiful throw from Mahomes. And I'm like, that was the dumbest fucking throw you could have made.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. Gibson literally was like, which way did it go, George? Like that was like the whole, but anyway.
You know what's funny is the same Chiefs fans, NFL fans in general, will sit here and tell you that Brock Purdy's pass to Aiyuk in the championship game that he caught off of the face mask was a bad prayer of a throw, overthrown, lucky miracle. Yet Patrick Mahomes' pass that wasn't intercepted because Deshaun Gibson's eyes were on the floor apparently was him trusting his receiver to go up and make a play, put it where only the receiver could get it. It's like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? It's insane. It's just insane.
When they love you, they love you. And when they don't, they're going to look for every reason to say, this is why that guy is not good. So, yeah.
All right. We got a few minutes left. Let's talk about this Brandon Aiyuk situation. By the way, the 49ers did re-sign Demetrius Flannigan-Foles, George Odom. We talked about that. Kevin Givens, Chris Conley, Brandon Allen. There's a few other kind of special teamers that they signed. I'm not going to delve into too much here because we got.
I do want to talk about a very important signing, and that's Devondre Campbell.
We got a really big super chat real quick.
Oh, holy shit.
Gray Fox, $200 super chat. Thank you. Hey, fellas, just dropping by quick to show my support. Where do you guys stand with Shanahan after this last Super Bowl loss / choke? I don't know if we'll win one with him. Please don't give me the Andy Reid analogy. I can't shake this feeling that this was our best chance. I hope I'm wrong. This definitely was the best chance in the terms of the Chiefs were the most beatable this year. That's all I'll say. Matt, you were about to start. Go ahead.
I think it needs to be looked at in a different lens of that there were opportunities there, and yes, they came up short. But the fact of the matter is that the 49ers had a lead in overtime in the Super Bowl. The 49ers did come back and tie it in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl to there were opportunities there to be had, but I don't think that you can necessarily put that all at Kyle Shanahan's lap. And I think that, people are, listen, this is going to be a big test, right? Because people are saying it, and I think it's a little bit true. I do think that Steve Wilkes was a little bit of the scapegoat on this. So we'll see what happens in the future. And, if it comes down to it, I don't know either. I would like to say that we could win a Super Bowl with Kyle. He's been to 2. I think that's important to point out. That's the most 49ers coach has seen since George Seifert. So I think that speaks to, Kyle Shanahan's talent and the fact that he made, 4 out of 5. It's 4 out of the last 5 NFC championship games. I think that's a big thing too. So they're there. And the moves, like I said, the moves that they've made have been geared towards keeping yourself in contention and allowing yourself to stay there. But I do think that, this one is less on Kyle than some of the other losses that I've seen, right? Like the Atlanta Falcons thing was pretty bad. The going away from the run in the Super Bowl against Kansas City the first time, putting the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands at the end of that game, rather than running with Raheem Mostert, who was on like a historic tear, right? Going away from Deebo Samuel in that game. Those are all things that, you could place at the feet of Kyle Shanahan. And we had some plays in this Super Bowl that didn't necessarily work out, but the ideas were there. I mean, the stones, he went for it on a 4th down when he's usually very conservative. The stones to do a wide receiver pass with Jawan Jennings. I mean, he was in his bag. He was calling stuff, and they had a lead in overtime in the Super Bowl. And it just was to the point where, it didn't work out. And there were some duds in the middle of the game. They didn't score a lot between the 3rd and 4th quarters or whatever. But I don't know, man. I think it's a little bit of everything.
Mike, before you go, let me just say real quick. It's not always the best team that wins. It's not even the best iteration of a team that wins. The 17, at one point, 17-0, 18-0 Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl. And I've seen those documentaries where Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Tom Brady are like, that was a team I thought we would win the Super Bowl with. Not this other one a couple years later that I thought we barely had a chance at maybe winning a wild card. It's like, you never know. And all these things have to come into place. I understand how ridiculously difficult it is to get back there and how burnt out you can be after having deep run after deep run after deep run. But I really do think that it's correctable. It's something they can fix. And as long as you have the quarterback, you could basically almost always get back there.
Well, and here's the last thing that I'll say too. I mean, there were just things in that game that me personally, I was just like, man, and I'm not necessarily a guy that believes in like universal karma and all that stuff, but you could see it, right? You whoop them right down the field. You go right down the field. And then Christian McCaffrey, who's sure-handed to everybody, fumbles. You don't get any points, right? Dre Greenlaw, hopping up and down, excited, runs out on the field, tears an Achilles. Like, what are we talking about? The most penalized offensive line in the NFL not being called for one hold in the entire game. These were things that it was just like, I don't know. It's a lot of compounding factors. And sometimes, like you said, Zach, it's not the best team that wins. Sometimes luck plays a lot of a huge role. So,
Mike, your 2 cents.
I am going to be judging Kyle Shanahan not by the results of this season, but I'm going to allude to something that Matt said, and I feel like I almost challenged him on it. But this draft is going to tell me everything I need to know about Kyle Shanahan. I said that is there a cockiness about him that he feels like I don't need to improve the offensive line? I'm right there with you, Matt. If we go into this and we just completely ignore the offensive line, it doesn't have to be pick 31, but it's got to be one of the first 2 or 3 picks, like honestly. And if we're not willing to invest in it, then that speaks to the arrogance of, oh, well, I got John Feliciano back, right? Like, what? Like, what eggs, like, how are you improving the offensive side of the ball? And while I understand, we had some leads and we blew them and all that stuff, there comes a point in time where someone has to look themselves in the mirror and say, how can I get better at what I do? And I know in the same exact, very, nice contribution here, don't give me the Andy Reid analogy. I'm not going to sit there and say, look how many times he lost, look how many times he lost, look how many times Kyle lost. However, it did take for Andy Reid to get fired from a head coach before he said, all right, I'm going to change up some things. And then you saw Andy Reid learn to trust his players, particularly his quarterbacks more, where I don't have to be the puppet master and call every single play every single time. Oh, what are you guys feeling right now? I don't know if Kyle has that in him yet. I don't know that. We saw the one clip, and us as Niner fans and content creators, we blew it up, right? Like Debo saying, hey, Kyle, give me the ball, right? That wasn't even in the Super Bowl, but that was in a NFC Championship game against the Packers or something like that, right? And so we celebrated that, like, oh, maybe he's learning. And then never again, nowhere, ever to be seen again, where it's like the players are the ones out there feeling, hey, this guy, he's biting on my double move every time, Kyle. Like, we got to draw something up. And I'm not saying he doesn't draw it up, but it's not consistent enough, where we've seen the 2019 Super Bowl. They're on the sideline. They line up. They call the timeout. They're down. That big play to Tyreek Hill. They have the mic'd up evidence of it, where Patrick Mahomes goes to Andy Reid and says, can we run that play? He's like, it's going to take a lot of time. I'll put you in shotgun, whatever. Like, he trusted his play. This is what you guys want to do? I'd rather us lose where my guys are all comfortable with the call that I make. You instill confidence. You get the adrenaline pumping. You give them that extra oomph. That's what's missing from a Kyle Shanahan-led offense. Go out there and invest in that offense. Buy your quarterback some more time. Hey, hold. Teach your guys to hold. As much as we complain about, they weren't calling holding, guess what? They weren't calling it on us either, right? There was 2 offensive penalties, I think both on Trent Williams, and one was a false start or something like that. It was like ticky-tack stuff. And Kyle says, hey, if you're going to call it on us, that's cool. But you got to call it on them when he moves out of the pocket also. And you know what happened? There were no more of those penalties called. So use it to your advantage then. You got to use what they're giving you. In any situation in life, you can have the fastest car in the world, but if you're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, it doesn't matter what that car can do. It doesn't matter. You got to take what they're giving you. So you got to know what kind of game you're in, and you got to be able to play the refs also. It's cool to go out there and complain about a call, but once you see that they're not going to call it anymore, hey, listen, you guys can't let him hit your quarterback on this play. You got to buy him some time. The Super Bowl on the line, and we settle for a field goal because someone whiffs and doesn't even cover the best defensive tackle in the league? Get me some more linemen in here, bro. If they ignore that, I don't care about the results of the season. This is going to speak to how Kyle Shanahan thinks and processes the NFL versus him. It can't be Detroit versus everybody in Kyle Shanahan's mind.
Thank you again, Gray Fox, for your contribution. Really appreciate it. All right, let's wrap it up with the Brandon Aiyuk trade discussion. You got him tweeting at Mike Tomlin saying we look like twins. You got reports coming out saying that Jacksonville was very close to sending their first round, which I believe is 17th overall, plus Zay Jones for Brandon Aiyuk in exchange. There are still reports that Pittsburgh's interested in him. What do you guys think of this? Do you think the 49ers will end up extending Aiyuk this offseason? Do you think they'll force him to play on his 5th year? What do you think is the most likely scenario in which this situation plays out? Mike?
I can tell you guys that the interest in Aiyuk is real, specifically from the Steelers. I heard that from a very, very trusted source. And then that was before the tweet. Let me be clear at what I'm saying. That was well before the tweet. I can send you guys a screenshot off air. But I asked this guy who's really, really in tune with teams around the NFL, and he told me, like, yes, this is something that they're interested in. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And then you see the Aiyuk thing. Now, I personally think that Aiyuk's tweet was more playing this is contract negotiation time. We saw the Debo antics. I'm going to say antics, right? But as soon as the season was over, Aiyuk's family and friends start tweeting out and messaging things on Facebook, and we're out of here and all that stuff, right? And so I think all of that stuff is part of the negotiations. I think all of that is how these players negotiate nowadays. It's a nasty part of it, but I do like I like the idea of, if we're going to trade someone, this is going to sound blasphemous, if we're going to trade someone, it should be Aiyuk and not Debo. Uh-oh, Matt disagrees. Here we go. You got to take yourself off mute. Come on.
No, I was going to let you finish. I just wanted you to. I was trying to prompt you to tell me why before I respond. Why do you think that that's the better move?
It's Kyle's confidence. Kyle does not call plays the same way when one player, he can call a game without Kittle. He can call a game without Christian McCaffrey, although we haven't seen it often, right? But for whatever reason, he cannot call a game when Debo is either absent or hurt and is out there as a decoy. It's just not the same. I don't know why. You would think that with all the other talent out there, you could still get some semblance of an offense that was averaging almost 30 points a game. Nope. It completely vanishes. That 3-game stint where we only scored 17 points, Debo was either absent or injured in all of those games. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that he's his comfort. He's his like security blanket. For I don't know why.
Who else was missing during those games?
Trent Williams was out for one of those games, if I'm not mistaken.
No, like 3.
But that we've won games without Trent Williams before. I just don't know that Kyle. No, but and I get that, right? It is a combination. There's always more than one, but I don't know what it is about Debo. Kyle is just different when Debo is healthy and he's out there, and he can't wait to he doesn't even have to be a big part of the game plan, but it's how he likes to manipulate people. How many times I know we're not talking about the Super Bowl, but in this Super Bowl, you saw Debo go from one side of the formation, run around the running backs, and go back to where he started from, and then boom, there was a play. Kyle just likes to, move these guys around, and Debo is that guy that he likes to move. And it does something in his mind about how the defenses perceive what they're about to do. And so I haven't seen him do that with anybody else. I don't know what it is, and I hope I'm wrong, because I think that Aiyuk would have the higher trade value of the two right now. Debo's got the contract. Aiyuk is on the 5th-year extension and ready to renegotiate. And he's younger, right? He's healthier, and he's a better all-around wide receiver. So let me be clear what I'm saying. I like Aiyuk more than I like Debo, but that doesn't mean that Kyle likes him more.
The Niners won games without Debo the season before last. They put up over 24 to on average, if I remember correctly.
They played 4 games without Debo last year, and they averaged 31.5 points per game in those 4 games. So I think we're being a little bit of prisoners to the moment.
What year are you guys talking about? 2021?
2022.
When Brock first came in.
Yep. They scored 31 against the Rams, 21 against Seattle, 37 against Washington, 37 against Las Vegas without Debo Samuel, because he had the knee injury. I think we're being a prisoner to the moment. And if you're talking about Mike, what you said, Brandon Aiyuk is younger. His play style, as I've said for the longest, is much more sustainable. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was near the tops in the league in yards receiving with not nearly the amount of targets, that the other top guys had. He wasn't targeted like Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson was, but he's so efficient with his route running. It's a much more sustainable thing. But Mike, I also do think that you're onto something in that this is the nature of the business now. And he just watched Debo get paid after all of this stuff and all of the liking of the Cowboys jersey edit and like all that stuff. He has the blueprint, right? His older brother on the team has shown him this is what you do if you want to get your money. So I'm not surprised about all this stuff. I will say that the reporter, no shade to her, she's just doing her job, but the Jacksonville beat reporter that said that the 49ers offered Aiyuk for 17 and Zay Jones, I think that's absolute bullshit. They're not trading Brandon Aiyuk unless they're getting into Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. territory. Because we've seen what some of these good wide receivers can get. And I don't think Sage, a number 4 receiver on the Jaguars. I don't think so, man. I just don't see it.
Yeah. You said something that I want to touch on right before you got to that part.
Jags.
Probably about we're probably talking about how he has the blueprint for how to get his money. Because I saw you.
Oh yeah. That was it. And don't forget what Debo did as soon as the offseason started. Posted a picture of him at dinner with Mike McDaniel down in Miami, right? And so What does Aiyuk do? Oh, well, you got involved with a Mike head coach. I'm going to get involved with a Mike head coach. Mike Tomlin, what's up, buddy? I hear we're twins, right? So it's like you got to link yourself to a guy. You got to have hints out there that you don't want to be there. Like it's the blueprint. It's the public negotiation.
Bro,
but when they asked,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say when they asked him about it, he said, "Hey, like." However it works out, how it works out. I do think that Aiyuk has the mindset of I am in no control of my future, and whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to go out there and play ball as long as I get paid. I don't care.
Yeah, it was literally the morning after the Super Bowl, like Mike alluded to. His girlfriend or wife, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if they're married, literally goes on TikTok and they're at Levi's. She goes, "Guys, this might be the last time we're here because we don't know if we're gonna be here next season." And then it cuts off right there. You can tell he's sitting in the driver's seat of the car.
Oh, that was directed. That
was
of
course. And then
directed.
his brother comes out, or his best friend comes out saying, "Send him to Vegas. You know, he doesn't want to deal with it." It's clear that there was an active discussion and effort to put this out there the literal day after the Super Bowl. Like, it's at the very soonest this man could be extended. He was like, "This is when I want it. You know, I want all this out there that I don't want to be here. I want it out." So it was very clear that there was an effort to get that out.
And there was emotional reason behind that, right? He was emotionally charged. I don't know if you guys have seen the threads of him just running routes and whooping people. He had what, 2-3 targets in the whole Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
He was open for 70% of the routes that he ran, but he just wasn't. It wasn't his game to be targeted, I guess.
So
and
that's what I want to ask you guys. Do you think Kyle made a conscious decision not to get him the ball or to get other people the ball because he knew he would be more expensive if he's like, say, a Super Bowl MVP or had an 8-catch, 155-yard game?
No. If you think Kyle gives a fuck about the offseason while he's actively in the Super Bowl, then like I don't know what to tell you. That's some 8D chess. I don't know. If Kyle actually felt that way, he should not be a head coach in the NFL. Because you should be doing everything you can to win that game. That game was centered around Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. And both of those players had some flubs that aren't typical of them. You know, Deebo had a key drop on a third down, you know, that kind of thing. And by the way, Juwan Jennings got really involved in that game too. So it wasn't like, you know, nobody else got involved. We saw more out of Kyle Juszczyk than we usually see. So there were things there. I would say that Brandon Aiyuk, listen, Juszczyk had like 3 touches, bro. That's like 3 times more than he'll have in like a 6-game stretch.
But I think you're proving Zach's point then. If everyone can get involved, where the heck is your best wide receiver?
No, what I'm saying is he's not thinking about. He might not have game planned around Brandon Aiyuk. He might have been like, they might expect Aiyuk, so let's go in a different direction or whatever. I'm saying that he wasn't doing it to be like, oh, well, if I don't get him the ball, he's going to be less expensive in the offseason. That's the aspect that I'm disputing. Not that the game wasn't planned around Brandon Aiyuk, because I don't think that he was a featured part of the game plan when he absolutely should have been.
Yeah.
So let me clear that up real quick. So
my whole point was after 3.5 quarters.
Also, if they had people that could fucking block, then maybe Brandon Aiyuk would have been more involved. The one thing I will say about Brandon Aiyuk is that a lot of his routes do take time to develop. He runs a lot of intermediate routes, and so you need time for your quarterback. And by the way, they were trying to go to him in overtime for those game winners, and it just wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like he was open in the back of the end zone in the fourth quarter, like Zach said. There was that play. Actually, I think that was overtime. And Purdy only had one read because he
it was overtime.
Ball out. Yeah. So I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't think that I would be hard pressed for somebody who's as competitive. Listen, man, when I play video games, I don't think about like, hey, man, I'm gonna freeze my friend out so I get better rankings and shit. No, I'm like, hey, we need to win this game, bro. Like, I don't care about anything else other than that. And I think that any competitive type of avenue, I think people get it twisted because there's millions of dollars involved, and they think that might be a GM type of thing or an owner being like, hey, man, like that sounds like something Jerry Jones would do, right? Hey, let me devalue this player by not getting him the ball, and I'll put my thumb on Mike McCarthy because I know he wants his job. That type of shit with Kyle. Kyle's too much of a red ass to ever do that. He took defensive play calling away from Steve Wilkes in the Super Bowl, was called a timeout and was like, I hate your fucking call. We're not doing that. I don't think he's looking at Brandon Aiyuk beyond the season. No way.
All I was saying is after 3.5 quarters of watching Deebo get clamped up and Aiyuk on the other side eating getting open. Yes, maybe the routes take a little longer to develop, but it seems like he's always open on that slant. He's almost always open there. I would have hoped to have seen Kyle say, what I'm doing isn't working. Let's try my fucking superstar receiver that has led my team in receiving for back-to-back seasons now. And at least let's try it. But, he rarely got any targets.
The hard out for Debo is weird. Like you said, the 2021 Debo is never coming through that door, not while Christian McCaffrey's here. And you're right, man. Debo is not a good route runner. He doesn't separate. He doesn't have that type of – he's like a system route guy. You have to scheme to get Debo open, right, on those intermediate middle passes. It's just not there. And so Kyle's fascination with Debo is a little concerning for me. I think that they would try to trade Debo, but I don't know that they can get out from under that contract. That contract doesn't look good right now.
Mike, any thoughts on this?
No, I was trying to pull up his targets in the Super Bowl. There it is. I found it here. He had 6 total targets, only 3 receptions. That's what it was in the Super Bowl.
6 ain't nothing, but it's still not good enough for your best guy.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 is not as egregious as we were thinking about.
I think, to be honest, I think
with
that's
a couple
average.
in crunch time, by the way.
Yeah.
But 2 of them were throwaways. Like he was the target, but thrown in his direction. I remember those. So I get it, but I don't know. For someone who was running routes the way that he was and getting open. But like you said, like that also plays to Kyle not trusting the offensive line to even make him one of the primary targets, right? So if all of that, we're talking about all of this for a reason. If that's the case, you got to do something about that offensive line early in this draft. Even if the guy doesn't work out, at least show that you're trying to improve it. Yep. And if he doesn't, then I just don't know. I don't know if we win one with Kyle.
All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for this first show back. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I know it's been it's only been a little over a month. It seems like it's been so long. It's been about 6 weeks. It seems like it's been a lot longer than that. But thank you guys for sticking with us. We'll be back on a regular basis from here on out. We'll continue to cover free agency. We'll cover the draft. We'll cover OTAs. Yes, we'll be here with it all. Make sure you follow all of us on X. Our handles are on the screen. Mike, I'm sure the folks already know where to find you. Let them know.
Yeah, guys, head on over to Nothing But Niners on YouTube. You can go to the Patreon right there below, patreon.com/NB9ERS. We do have content coming to you guys still throughout the year. We're going to be making some changes over there very, very soon, especially going into next season. When the season kicks off, we're going to be making some changes to the tiers over there. But you guys already know, man, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on and looking forward to the next time already.
Let's do it, man. Matt, without further ado, carry us out.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I know it was a long break, but, those wounds cut deep. And, we all had stuff going on. But listen, one of our favorite times of the year, the draft. I'm pretty sure, Zach, that we're going to try to set up we didn't do it last year because the 49ers didn't have a first-round pick. But we're going to be live for the draft. All 32 picks. We're going to be doing it. We're going to be reacting. We have a lot more to go before the season kicks off. We have a lot more signings, a lot more changes in the wind, and I'm very excited to have you guys here, to have my boys Zach and my man Mike here with me as well. Thank you as always for joining us on this Thursday evening. Not much else to be said, right? We're going to gear up towards another season. So that being said, for everybody here, thank you as always for joining us, and until next time, go Niners.